Windows 10 is no longer being supported by Microsoft, and this is sort of a thing when a operating system comes to the end of its life cycle. The company that manufactures it slows down and supporting it because they want you to move on to another platform like Windows 11. But in this video, I want to talk about why do I recommend refreshing your system every year, or what I'll be doing is I'll be refreshing my system every year. So I think I'm going to do it every December. Because have you ever dealt with a situation where your computer isn't running as fast as you normally used to seeing it do? You go to tutorials and dialogues, especially on the Windows side, you're looking at registry files and you want to uninstall this, uninstall that. And it's quite strange because you know you're running the fastest platform that is out there for getting data to and from your hard drives. You're running M.2 NVMe, all that stuff. You got 64 gigabytes of RAM. If you're like me, you got 64. And so you're kind of wondering, why are things hanging up so bad and starting up and shutting down? Why is Chrome hanging so bad? Why is my video editing software? I've been fighting this for the last year, maybe some change. And it wasn't always like that. But I think the human nature is like, say, if something hurts most of the time, we like to let it go away on its own before we think of it as something serious. Maybe we're just sore from a workout. And in this case, sometimes when your system that you want to create and make content with slows down, you're thinking, okay, I really don't want to figure this out, because when I have to figure this out, I have to put on my tech hat and take off my creator hat to figure out this issue. I do know a lot of people may chime in and says, well, you should go with Mac. Macs are solid. We don't get viruses like Windows. However, I also believe that Macs fall under the same thing. If you let the operating system sit on there for a long enough time, it's just been my experience with all computers up to this point, no matter how fast and how great these processors are, that something gets hung up somewhere. I don't know if it's caches or things of that nature. And then what they want you to do, get a CC cleaner, clean it all out, mess with your settings, break your programs, and now you can't create. Or in my case, you're just sort of developed a skin for dealing with the computer not working the way that it should. You develop a skin, you sort of know your workarounds, you know how it's going to hang up, how it's going to crash. And when you're like me, we had like an operating system like Windows for a long time. You're installing stuff randomly here and there, trying to test this out. You forget you installed it. All this process, you know, it just sort of bogs the computer down. Even though you do have plenty of RAM, you got a great processor in your system. I'm running a Ryzen 7. It still hangs up. And there's nothing like when you first get it, how fast and how snappy and how responsive it is and how quickly it does what you tell it to do. And then after a while, you're putting a URL and you're like, why can't I click on this? What is going on? So what I recommend and what I prescribe is reinstalling your operating system yearly now. I've worked in the tech field for a while now, and a lot of times these users that I deal with, or any user, whether you're in tech or in administration or anything like that, these computers are on all the time. A lot of people aren't doing things to maintain their computers. They're not worried about cleaning up their drive or performance. They're pretty much worried about taking care of the tasks that they got to take care of. They're not really participating in traditional archiving or backup practices. So everything is nice and saved on that C drive. But the problem with that is that if you got to refresh your system, you're going to overwrite all that data unless you back it up properly off of the C drive, or unless you're running a subscription service like OneDrive. Not doing that. And in the case of being a music producer, if you think about all the process and all the time you invested in installing these platforms and these plugins, going from complete with all that sample data to Omnisphere, all that sample data to making sure the plugins are in the right place when you install them. Not every plugin you buy has an installer, so you got to make sure you put them in the right place. And not to mention like Antares plugins, which I do love, but they are very sensitive to activation. You got to make sure they're activated properly. And if you delete your system or refresh your system without deactivating the software, then you got to contact them and say, hey, I deleted the software, I didn't deactivate it, I need to reset it. So you have to be very strategic in this process of clearing out your operating system. It's just a thing. I've gotten used to it, and I've been slow to do it before because I didn't practice early on good data backing up processes. Like, I'm much better of it now. I'm much better doing it now. But years ago, you just run that hard drive on the ground and you just think it's going to work forever. No, these computers do not work forever. You never know when a hard drive is going to fail, even if it's new. You don't know if the motherboard just says, hey, I'm not in the mood today. And, oh, don't let me get to talking about how slow the Windows been starting up before I did this. And shutting down. If you are running a solid state, not even a solid state, an M.2 drive, and Windows is taking forever to start up, and it's inconsistent in starting up, and on top of that, it's taking forever just to shut down, there's something going on there. There's something wrong. There's something in the matrix that's not adding up, causing delays in your workflow or moving on to your next step. And I don't like having to go inside of there fixing it. I don't want to see the registry files. I don't want to do that. Now, I know Mac is good and it's very consistent, but I think at the end of the day, if you work your system hard enough like how I do, whether it's Mac or PC, it's going to get bogged down with stuff. Something's going to happen. Something's going to break. But breaking it, to me, is the evidence of using it properly, of using it for real, using it hard, rendering that video, rendering them tracks, loading up that sample. You want to use it. You don't go through the sacrifice of getting good hardware for the reason of just letting it sit there and not using it. So I've developed great data backing up processes where I put my data away. I don't save on my system drive. I really don't save anything on my system drive unless it's absolutely necessary. I keep an image drive ready to go. And I also developed a list of all my installed music software, because that's the main thing that this system runs, is music software. I do run Adobe Cloud, and that's enabled me to keep everything up to date. Even in the case of uninstalling the cloud, this reinstalls, it does the activation, all that stuff automatically. And that streamlines the process, but it's still a process for getting everything on. It takes time. It's a pain. But I think the pain is worth it at the end of the day. I think the pain is worth the struggle of making sure you got everything uninstalled, making sure your data backed up properly, and then make sure all your plugins are deactivated if they don't cross over installations of Windows. I think it's worth it because after doing this, my computer is like on a whole nother level. What happens is you get used to it not working right or slower. And it's just working I'm just crushing work now. It's changed my whole workflow. Like, I was working, but I was pushing against the grain of a computer that wasn't running at 100% capacity because of that operating system being on there for a year, 2-3 years. It's just part of the beast. And so it is my adaptation to this world of computers and technology. Even if I had a Mac, I would probably do the same thing, is re-image, refresh my operating system at least yearly to maintain that lightning fast boot up, shut down, operating programs opening up properly, closing, stuff crashing less, maybe uninstalling programs that had some flaws and issues and didn't get updated that was hanging up your system, and because maybe the company didn't support it anymore. When Windows updated on it, something in the code broke somewhere. These are complicated systems, and a lot of times, just because you know how to analyze and go inside of registries and fix issues doesn't mean you feel like it, or it doesn't mean that you should unless you want to. It's your call. But as for me, I'm going to refresh my system every year. I'm just going to make sure I do my data properly. So all the content, everything I create goes into a 2025 folder, and at the end of 2025. I will back up and do a true backup of that data onto an external drive and store it away somewhere else as a traditional backup. And that's how I'm going to deal with that. And so it's my recommendation to you. If you got Windows, and I know it's a pain, especially if you haven't done it in a while. It's a pain. You don't know where your operating system is at. You don't know where your files are for your plugins you installed. You may have got plugins another entire way, could be breaking stuff. You don't know it. I think it's best to start over with your system, especially on Windows. I'm talking to the Windows people. I know Mac's like, Mac, I get it. It's great. I got a PC right now. I'm not about to drop some cash on the Mac. Macs are nice. They're cool. I'm not hating on the Macs. I'm just talking about in the case of PC. Clear that bad boy out. Start over. Start fresh. It's the beginning of the year. But make sure you got all your stuff backed up. And I know that's a pain. But if you go through that process, I believe that you're going to come out on top and in a better situation with this stuff, because it's going to be like you have a brand new computer all over again. And I think that's just the nature of the beast. All right. You're watching the Leo T2K YouTube channel. Make sure you check out links in the description below. Let me know what you think. Do you got a Windows system? Is your computer hanging up, kind of running slow? Or is it super bulletproof and you're in love with Windows 11 or whatever? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you on the next video.